Hello and welcome to Healing Tips from the Heart, Intuition with Helpers, Healers, and Guides. I am your host, Dr. Lori Hops, licensed psychologist, writer, and artist. I've explored mind, body, and spirit related to intuition, or your personal guidance system, since early childhood. Meet my guests who have learned from their personal and professional lives to explore vast realms of knowing, synchronicities, and overcoming challenges. Their stories may inspire you with tools to enhance your daily living and relationships. Hello and welcome, my special guest for today, Stella Davies. Stella is a HolyFire Karuna Reiki Master, healing sound and shamanic practitioner, and yoga teacher. She began her healing arts work 35 years ago, training at first as a creative arts therapist in the 1990s. And she got to work with Chloe Goodchild with the Naked Voice, which began her teaching natural voice work, which is an expression of embodied voice using sacred mantra and free vocalization for healing and empowerment. And she's taught this work worldwide. Stella became a Reiki Master in 2012 through the International Center for Reiki Training. And she found out about shamanic healing from her personal experience in 2008, starting then when she moved from the UK to Southern California through her teacher, Elaine Algani, who was apprenticed to Thomas Pinkson. Stella now offers regular shamanic journeys and classes supporting groups to cultivate a meaningful spiritual relationship with the natural world and the wisdom and teachings that are available. So welcome, Stella. So good to see you.
Thank you, Laurie. It's such a joy, really a joy to connect with you, and such a joy to be here with everyone today.
Yes, and I just want the audience to know I met you probably around 2015, maybe.
Yeah, I think maybe even earlier than that, Laurie. It's been a while.
Yes, and through a mutual friend, and I came to some of your wonderful gatherings with sound healing and community sharing, and I've been to some of your concerts and just love the energy that you exude and create. So it's a delight for me to have you and to let other people know about you and the wonderful work that you do.
Thank you, Laurie. And it's interesting. You talk about community and tribe. I mean, that's so much an important part, I think, of my life and of the healing that I like to share, is to actually bring people together in groups to just celebrate and connect to the amazing wisdom and love that we all are. But sometimes we need to create a sacred space within which to really connect with that.
Yeah.
And those early chant groups that I think you're mentioning, that I ran monthly for many years, very much a part of that healing for me personally, and for the tribe that used to come.
Yes. Yeah. It may go back to maybe 2013 even.
I think so.
Yeah. Yep.
So. Yeah, that was the first. I mean, like it must be over 20 years ago, I think, when I first connected to chanting, the power of sacred chanting. And it's just as powerful for me now as it was back then. And I absolutely, the first time I ever sat in a chant space, a circle, it was in this rather dodgy basement under a library in London. With this very eccentric but hugely joyful soul called Nikki Slade, and she was one of Chloe Goodchild's apprentices. And we just started singing Om Namah Shivaya, which means, I bow to the divine in myself. And I just felt like I'd come home in that moment. It was like, this is my church. Here we are. And it was the most joyful, heart-opening experience. And then connecting later on with Chloe herself, that was another whole deep dive into the power of singing the soul, and learning how to really express our voice through just connecting to the soul and letting it sing, and kind of getting out of the way. And chanting really helps with that. It really helps us to quiet the busy mind down, and the critic and the inner critic we all carry, and to quieten it down to a place where we can really listen inside, and then open up to this amazing channel of sound that is us. And people who often come to see me will say they may have had an experience as a younger person, often as a child, where somebody has told them, you sound like a cat on a tin roof, or can't carry a tune in a bucket, and all of those things, or just be laughed at. And it shut their singing down for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
Till they come and see somebody like me who can then what Chloe likes to call vocally midwife it back. So
yeah, getting rid of all the debris, the obstacles, the naysaying, the fears, criticism.
And
I think that voice and drawing or painting are the two things that people say, I can't paint, I'm not an artist, and I can't sing.
Yes. Well, that's so much because in our culture, in modern day culture, singing and being an artist has become a profession. Whereas, in more ancient cultures and in tribal cultures still today, it's everyone does all of it. Everyone does all of it. Everyone sings, everyone dances, everyone drums, everyone, draws and does whatever. There's no sort of, oh, they're the artist, oh, they're the this. You might have a particular affinity for something, but everybody gets up and dances when the drums start. There's no sort of, oh, they're a dancer, they can do that. So I think it's the same with singing. And what tends to happen when people connect to that natural voice, that what Chloe calls the naked voice, is that often people have never heard that voice before, their own true, authentic, empowered, embodied voice. They've never heard it. It's shocking. Shocking in a really good way. It can be just so empowering. It's like stepping off a cliff, because often it's our worst fear, isn't it? Singing in front of somebody, and I'm asking them to sing their soul. It's not just sing this tune. It's open up and let yourself be sung. Let yourself be sung, whatever comes through. And it's not wrong. You can't do it wrong. And it's always, I feel, every time I hear somebody do that, it feels like such a huge honor that they have been willing and brave enough to just let this incredible authentic voice emerge. And the songs and the music that comes through is all like a sort of homeopathic dose of musical medicine for people to really connect with healing, or with empowerment, or with releasing emotion that's stuck in the body. It's one of the most powerful tools I know for just quickly shooting things through the chakras, blockages or things that we've held for possibly decades.
Yeah, and maybe longer. Yeah, I love that idea of that the sound healing, or the sound that is emitted, is a homeopathic remedy, sort of a vibrational remedy, that whatever is coming out of you, you're expressing, is the very formula that you need to unlock your healing magic.
Yeah, absolutely, Laurie. You're spot on. And everyone has that capacity. That's what's so amazing. It's not just some people. Everyone can do that. In the same way that everybody could channel Reiki, can connect and attune to Reiki, channel that wisdom.
Yeah.
Everyone can open up to shamanic journeying and receive wisdom, direct revelatory wisdom, whether it comes through, if you're a very visual person, through visions, or whether it comes through sensation in the body or auditory messages. I think this thing that only certain people are able to do certain things, you know, it really limits. It puts a lot of fear around people's ability to connect to what is limitless, infinite wisdom that we're all available. It's all available to us, to
Yeah,
everyone.
it's about tuning ourselves and feeling enough safety and permission to play and explore. I'm intuitive from a young age, but there are pockets that were more or better developed or less well developed.
Right.
And so I had to practice and play with the ones that weren't as well developed, and now they've gotten better. But it takes sometimes a lot of practice. But
Yeah.
it's so good to have these different avenues because we're drawn to different things. Some people are drawn to movement more than voice or instruments or whatever it is, or being in natural settings, nature.
Yeah, yes. It's really where your soul is calling you in any given moment. I'm sure it's true for you too, but you know, when I look back over my life, there have been certain things that were very important at certain periods of time that my soul, the healing I needed, or the expansion or awareness that wanted to come through was very much more important at a certain time, and then it grows and shifts as we grow and shift. And you mentioned in the gifts and the intuition, and how profoundly they can change over our lifetimes too, in that we learn to trust them more, you know, and because in our culture we're just not encouraged to trust our deep intuitive wisdom. It's just not a tool that is trusted. So I was sharing with you that story before we started today about the way that there are signs all over the place that some of them are really so obvious that we you know, it's almost like, you know, banging your head into a wall. It's so you know, like the story I mentioned to you about when I first felt very called to do Chloe Goodchild's work, and I'd never worked with her yet. I sent away for the information pack, and it arrived through my letterbox because we didn't have email in those days, really. And I opened the pack. I was all excited, and I looked at the price for the year-long training, and I was like, oof, I'm not sure if I can manage that. And then, but within the same pile of mail came a tax rebate for almost exactly the same amount for that training. And it's like a no-brainer at that point, but it's learning to trust those. And I think for me, as my life has gone on, I've learned to trust those signs and signals more and more. And then maybe, like you say, more finely attune them with the Reiki. That for me was a big portal into opening up to intuitive wisdom and psychic ability and clairvoyance. And yeah, there's all these amazing gifts available to us, right?
Yeah, I love that story because it really shows in the immediate how the question and the answer came simultaneously.
Yes.
And the fear didn't have time to settle because the answer was right there. I mean, I guess you could have said, well, isn't that funny, but I need that to pay my bills, and so I still can't register for the course.
Yes, absolutely. It's so true, isn't it?
Yeah.
And yet we're guided all the time if we just open up and listen, or take a moment to just sort of trust. Really, I think a lot of it's trust that we are guided on our paths. We just perhaps don't know that we are.
Yeah, and the guides change. I mean, yes, it can be new and exotic and strange and maybe intimidating if you're new to it, but also over time, if you're more experienced, it can feel sometimes like you enter a wasteland and you're like, what am I doing wrong? Why aren't the energies flowing? I used to be able to communicate in these different ways. And I've had those dry spells myself too. And I have learned to be patient with it. At first it was like, oh, I must be doing something wrong. But when you go through it many times, then you say, oh, this is a rhythm. This is a natural progression. And there's going to be times of plenty and times of lean. And then sometimes you find that your guidance system actually shifts. It's almost like everybody leaves the building and you're like, hello, is anyone
there?
And all you're hearing is your own echo And then you get glimpses sometimes of, oh, there's like some kind of a different energy change coming in. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's an adjustment period to try to like refine the communication.
Yes.
So I don't know if
Yes.
that's been your experience too.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. I really resonate with that. I've definitely had those periods. And when I first ever trained to Reiki in 2005, it took many, many years of working with that energy to really even trust or know there was anything. I mean, I knew the energy was there, but not so much I wasn't sure about the guidance. Then when I took master level, and then particularly HolyFire Reiki Master level in 2015,
Mm,
it was like something opened,
mm,
it was quite shocking because I was raised. I mean, it's hilarious in that what I do now is I teach all about spirit and guides and but I was actually raised an atheist in my
okay.
family. There was no God. God did not exist, and anything pertaining to God, angelic realms, and when you die, it's all over. It was that kind
Okay.
of. Um, so when I connected to Holy Fire Reiki, I was told that at some point in the journey, I had the guide Jesus appear to me,
Hmm.
as an ascended one to kind of help with my healing. And we had this whole dialogue for a while. It was like I couldn't quite trust or let him in, and he was saying, just let me into your heart. I'm here to work with you. And what I realized was that the energy of that Reiki, that healing energy, Reiki means spiritually guided life force energy, was putting me in touch with some unworthiness in my
Ah,
heart, and I didn't feel like I deserved that level of healing guide. It was unconscious,
mm,
but when I connected with this, I didn't feel I deserved him to be one of my healing team. So finally I let that go and let him in, and he's been one of many who've now come through. And but it takes time, and learning to trust that those energies are there supporting you has taken me, I think, a number of decades, really. And then they show up in interesting ways at times. When I first took Holy Fire Reiki and let that guide in, I was also really interested in shamanic work and had been doing my journeys around the medicine wheel with Elaine Algani, and it's a path of the heart. The Elaine and Thomas work in the Huichol tradition, and he is one of the elders, and she's his apprentice, and so she'd been teaching us these beautiful journeys around the medicine wheel where we connect to the elements and the seven directions, the cardinal directions, and the spirit guides that work with those, and the above realm and Mother Earth realm and the heart space.
mm,
It's a beautiful, beautiful experience, deeply touching for me. I'd always really loved nature, and
mm,
to be able to actually tangibly connect with those guides in a very real way, and shamanic journeying was epic for me. But we'd been told in our Holy Fire class to just connect with Holy Fire Reiki for the next 6 to 12 months, and just that energy. So, I'm very literal sometimes. So I was like, ooh, maybe I shouldn't be doing shamanic journeying, maybe.
yeah,
So,
yeah. No, I did the same. I'm also Reiki master. And I
yeah,
was
yeah,
concerned, I wanted to keep that purity.
right,
And so
right.
then you're like, well, I'm not going to give up my practice of
I know,
psychotherapy. Maybe I'll
right.
put yoga and other things on pause to have that purity of
Yeah,
vibrational energy sink in and into
right,
my being. So
right.
I can relate to that portion of it.
Got it. Got
Yeah.
it. So I took myself on this meditation, guided meditation, with Reiki meditation, to sort of ask the question: is it appropriate for me to continue with this shamanic work?
Yeah.
And I was walking in my mind along a beautiful river, and we turned a bend, and on the bank in a clearing stood Jesus, and he was covered from head to foot in birds and animals, surrounded by all these beautiful spirit guides, and he was just beaming this big beatific smile, and I just said, well, I'll take that as a yes then. And then I just began to work in the more shamanic way as well. And now I combine shamanic Reiki in the same sessions, and it's a beautiful thing to combine them, actually.
Yes,
To
they
do
say,
the journey.
it's very important to recognize and honor where the teachings come from, the
Yes.
original teachings, and to not take them away from the original vibration and intention, to honor them deeply.
Absolutely.
But I think it's also important to mindfully be aware of how things can be combined
Yes.
and brought into a creative space. Knowing for me, knowing the distinction between this is what I'm doing now, and then with a different purpose, this is what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
So that you're not dishonoring or not representing appropriately
Yeah.
the root of what we're being allowed to see. Because in this world now, I mean, my relatives wouldn't have known about Reiki. They were,
No.
they were in their small village, and that was it. But here we have all these international
I know.
opportunities, and so we have to be discerning, I think.
I think so. I think
Yeah.
that's absolutely right, and very honoring of the lineages in which we work, for sure. But knowing that the Reiki has guided me constantly throughout my time of first ever attuning to all kinds of practices and offerings that I never would have imagined would have come in. But the Reiki
Yes.
will nudge you towards those and say, hey, it might be a good idea if you took a yoga teacher training. And in the early days, I used to argue with the guides and go, well, no, I don't really think that's not really my thing. I like yoga, but I don't want to teach it. And then we'd have these arguments with my guides, and eventually I would go, okay. And then that happened with the Reiki Master level. I always seen myself as a sound healer, sound and chanting, and so when my guidance mentioned that it might be a good idea to take a Reiki Master training to teach it, I was like, oh no. I'm a sound healer, and I just do a bit of Reiki on the side. How wrong was I? Eventually I surrendered, and literally the week after I came back from the UK, having done my master level, it was like the floodgates opened. I was at a party and I just mentioned I'd just taken my Reiki master level, and people were like, well, when's your class? When's it happening?
Wow.
Well, what? I don't even haven't even begun. So it happened very, very fast, which is always, I think, a good indication that you're on the right track when you take a step and then your soul opens up to the next level of itself. And that's of course true for everyone, for all of us.
We get like a magnetic boost. It's like, oh, I'm not sure. Step your toe in the water, and then all the beings show up. Yes, yes, cheering you on. And it may not be like that continuously, but it gives you that momentum to push you into that next stage of whatever it is you're doing.
Yes, absolutely. And I think what you mentioned before about those dry periods, those periods where you're not quite sure, it's really important to honor those times as well as a sort of processing,
Yes.
a time of just being or just allowing. I can remember after I separated from my first husband, that I at quite an older age had to move back in with my parents, which is they always say, don't they, you can never go home again. I was very grateful that they let me come and stay with them, but it was a very challenging time, and I really doubted myself and doubted my abilities. I had very low self-esteem, and I wasn't in my community anymore because I'd moved locations to be, have a roof over my head. And this is another one of those stories that happens about the way the guides just kind of go, it's okay, even this is okay, even this moment was that I mentioned to my mum, oh, I think I need to get a job, and I'm going to look in the local advertising paper for ads, for jobs. And then she said, that's a good idea. The next day, through the letterbox of her house arrived the very newspaper that I'd wanted to look in. And I said to her, "Oh, thanks, Mom. That's really kind of you to get that delivered for me." And she said, "I didn't get it delivered." I was
It's a
like,
mystery.
"Ooh, ooh, okay." So I knew the paper was for me, and it did. It had the wrong house number on. They'd put it through the wrong door.
Oh.
So I had a quick look at the ads, and I was really ungrounded at the time, really out of my element,
Mm.
just totally all over the place. And I saw an advert for working in a nursery, garden nursery, so plant with plants. And I just went, "Oh, yeah, that feels like I just need to get my hands in soil. That feels great. What a great idea." So I applied, I got the job in about 5 seconds, and it wasn't very hard. And I spent a good first few weeks just planting things and potting things. But here I am, living with my parents, just working in a garden nursery. I'm not doing any Reiki or chanting or anything like that.
Yeah.
Feeling a bit out of my element. And then this woman came to work at the garden center who comes for the season from Portugal, and she'd been into all these sort of the rainbow gatherings and all of that kind of good hippie stuff over in Europe. And she didn't know anything about my background, and we were just that I worked here, and we were standing by side one day putting little plants in pots. She says to me, "Do you know anything about sacred chanting?"
Hmm.
And I went, just a bit."
Funny you should ask.
And then I mentioned, what I'd been doing for the last however many years, leading chant groups and doing the naked voice work. And she said, "Oh, great. When are you starting one here?" And I was like, "Well," so we did. We started a little one in her house with about 5
Mhm.
people. By the time I left my parents' home and moved on into my next part of my life, there were 15 to 20 people in the local church hall in my mother's village gathering every week to do sacred chanting.
Wow.
And
Beautiful.
just from this crazy thing of the wrong newspaper being delivered through the door, and you're right, but not right.
I love it. I love that. I actually get messages through, I used to get messages through newspapers too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the unusual job option that, you look at the same advert for years and there's never a description like that, but then there's the one and you
Yeah.
apply and it's yours, you get it.
Yes.
So it's like, and
Right.
then you ask them, well, have you ever applied, advertised this way? No. In fact, it's sometimes against the rules but there was an exception, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think of it as like, the films, the adventure films where like the bridge is about to close, but someone like leaps into the air and they make it
That's it.
just over,
Bridges the gap.
It's
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Oh, but isn't it comforting and reassuring to know that we have all of this incredible support? Maybe it's often invisible, but it comes through, all of these different forms, through a newspaper or somebody's comment that they make, off the cuff comment, or
yeah,
just somebody you meet in the street or at the store. It's amazing
it
how if
is.
we're open and receptive, all of this information and guidance is available to us, but we often just poo-poo it or think it's oh, don't take much notice. But when we do, it's such a revelation.
Well, I'm wondering, I'm just going to ask you off the cuff and maybe the answer is no, but do you have something that comes to mind, maybe from shamanic journeying, that couldn't have been known, that offered a solution through that
Oh,
approach?
yes, yes, goodness. Well, that's very intuitive on your part. I remember having a period of insomnia in my life. Probably, maybe I don't even know why, but maybe it was anxiety or stress or something, but I wasn't sleeping very well. And I decided to do a shamanic journey for myself to
Mhm.
see what the intuitive wisdom had to tell me about it. Um, and they I went into the lower realm, with the earth realm, and I met with a guide down there, this sort of ancient, this older tribal lady, and she gave me a particular remedy, and it was a little bottle, and it was vetiver. It was the
Uh-huh.
essential oil of vetiver.
Mhm.
I knew the word, I knew the essential oil vetiver, but I had no idea what it was for. I'd never bought any, never owned any, had never used any. I just
Mhm.
happened to know that it was an essential oil. When I went online after the journey, we call that grokking in shamanic journeying, right? Where you go away and research what comes through in the journey, because it said cure for insomnia, rubbed on the
Okay.
soles of the feet. It was like, wow. And that was one of those penny drop moments for me of, oh my goodness, there's all this wisdom available to us. So of
Yes.
course I got myself some vetiver very quickly and started rubbing it on the soles of my feet for sleeping, and it was really helpful. Who knew? I certainly didn't, not in my intellectual wisdom anyway.
Yes.
Mm,
That's a beautiful story.
yeah.
Yeah, there's these realms of knowledge that we just have to have an open heart and curiosity and gratitude for the information, and then
Yeah.
to use it in an ethical way.
And to use it is really important. I mean, I can't tell you how many journeys I've done and received the same information over and over again and then not acted on it, and
Yeah.
then why nothing changed in my life.
Surprise.
Eventually my teacher pointed out, well, are you actually doing any of the things that they are? Like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm a bit of a slow learner, I guess. Maybe we all are.
Well, and sometimes there's the right timing. We have to
Yes,
be ready, and maybe we need to hear it 100 times until
absolutely.
we like sneak up on it gradually, and then boom, we're ready.
Yes, that's so true, isn't it? We're not
Hmm.
always completely in alignment with whatever's coming through until we hear it a multiple of times.
Yeah, things have to line up. I mean, I get information sometimes that doesn't make sense or
Mhm.
have an accuracy to it until long years, sometimes later.
Wow.
So I
Wow.
hang on to it, and I wait. I'm wondering, oh, put that in the back burner. It'll come up
Wow. That's
or
so,
not.
yeah. That is so interesting. Yes, yes, it's like something that your future self knows already. And of course, that's such a possibility with shamanic journeying. You
Right.
know, we journeying through space and time.
Yeah, there's no clock, they say.
Yes, exactly.
We have the clock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
I had an,
Beautiful.
I had an
Well,
experience recently with that, with
yeah.
a new ascended master who I'd heard of vaguely, like a million years ago, perhaps in the UK, and when I came to the States, didn't connect with that one at all, and then had a journey recently where this one came through, and I knew the name, but I had no idea about this guide whatsoever. And when I went again and started researching about the guide, it was absolutely in alignment with what I was healing in myself, and what I needed, what I actually needed, which was a little bit more spiritual discipline.
Oh,
They were giving me a kind of a, hey, you need to up your game with your spiritual discipline. And I don't know about you, whenever I hear the word discipline, I'm always like, no, God, that sounds really hard. And when I started journeying more about, well, what do you mean? What would be helpful?
yeah.
I was told I need to dance every day. Just
Okay.
put on some dance music. I'm like, well, that's my kind of spiritual discipline. I can do that. And it's been so grounding and so healing and so nurturing and joy, just bringing so much joy in every day that I'm just blown away. I hadn't done it years ago, but hey, like you say, when we're ready, we're ready.
Right.
But beautiful to get this wisdom from, an ascended master who just said, hey, just dance every day.
I love it. It's great. It's
Mm.
wonderful. Yeah. Oh my, there's so many gems that you've shared. And I'm wondering if there's anything that you wanted to add before we say goodbye for today that we haven't talked about yet, about helpers, healers, and guides, or intuition, something from the heart, maybe.
I think one of the things we hadn't touched on much and I mean, briefly touched on my earlier love of nature as a child,
Mm.
and then kind of reconnecting with it in a more spiritual way through the shamanic work. And just that over the past few years, since COVID, I guess I've been holding these journeys around the medicine wheel, which I mentioned just now, and it's been so revelatory to me and to the people that gather, how disconnected we are as a culture, mostly from everything really, but certainly the sense of gratitude that we've lost for very fundamental things like the sunshine, the water we drink, the fire we light on the gas, or the match we strike. And one of the beautiful things I've really learned through the shamanic work is just to find to learn how to better find right relationship with all of these things that we take for granted, and to find deep gratitude for them. And it's been really very healing for me, and very healing and nurturing for the souls that have been gathering together in tribe. And of course, gathering together in tribe in that sort of space is always very nurturing. But there's something about learning, deepening our connection to the natural world, and experiencing ourselves as a very intrinsic part of it, not separate. With humans, we think we're above it all, and we've been kind of conditioned into that. And it's a falsehood that has caused a lot of destruction on the planet, and continues to, as we all know. So I think I just wanted to share that's something I'm really passionate about, and that I want to dive into more and offer more in the community. Other gatherings or groups of people who'd like to connect more to gratitude and right relationship to these things, that the sun coming up in the morning, having a moment of, wow, the sun, another beautiful new day, and the sun bringing all this life to the plants, and helping everything grow, and keeping us well and healthy, and of course all of the elements, the earth, and the plants and herbs and essences that we use and every day. It's just been, I think, really gratitude, I think, for me, has been the main lesson, how to find more gratitude for all of those things. And I know for myself and for the souls that I gather with around this, it's been very nourishing and nurturing, and very reconnecting to probably our ancestral roots, where people were in much more connection to those, and didn't take them for granted. I mean,
you rely on it for your sustenance. I mean, even breath.
Yes.
People are like, oh, well, I'm disconnected, I'm inside, I'm not on the ground floor, I'm not in nature, but you're breathing, you're drinking water, your heart is beating, like the elements are in us, they're in our bones and our blood, and so
we are the elements, and that's such an
are the
important thing
elements.
to realize, isn't it? The breath of our air, and the fire of our passion, and the earth of our bodies.
Yes.
In Celtic spirituality, they call the physical body the clay of our body. So they call it a form of earth, and it's just I think it's honestly, I think it's the way forward for us as a species, is to reconnect with that in a more profound and deep way. And we've got very far away from it, and it's caused a lot of destruction and chaos and disassociation with the natural world, that is always there waiting for us to reconnect with it and give us its messages. So many messages from the spirit guides of the animals and birds and plants.
Yes. Yeah, there's so much here. It's so rich. Well, I'm offering my deep gratitude for all the treasures that you've shared and who you are.
Thank you.
Yeah, such a pleasure that we met years ago, and that you agreed to share your gifts with the world in this way. And it's I see wonderful things continuing to grow.
It's been so my joy. It's really been a blessing to talk to you, and just to thank you for allowing me to talk about all of this stuff and how much joy it brings to me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and wishing you a beautiful rest of your day.
Yes. All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
All of you out there, wishing you a very beautiful day. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for today's podcast. If you want to learn more, you can visit my website for podcast and resources at hopshealingtips.com. You can also like, share, and subscribe to this channel. This podcast is for information and entertainment purposes only and is not providing healthcare advice. Please seek guidance from your professional healthcare team should you need assistance.